times, just learning from his feet and what he knew of the word. This morning, I think this is an oxymoron because of the fact that we're in the love month, and I'm talking about a church that ain't all that great.
All right.
In the book of Revelations, chapter 2, starting with verse 18. And as I approach this church again today, I want to say this to you. I'm not pointing my finger at nobody. I'm just reading the Bible and giving you the truth that's in it. Amen. And sometimes when you hear things and it's a whole lot of truth, somebody thinks you're talking about them. And man, if you didn't come in my office and talk to me, I ain't got nothing to say to you. I ain't got nothing to say to you. You know when you go to the restaurant, you don't talk to the chef, right? Y'all know that, right?
Right.
Why? Because he might put the wrong ingredient on your food.
Right.
So you leave him alone and let him cook. And some of y'all, when you see me Sunday morning, act like I ain't even in the room. Just forget me. Say, no, that's a chef. He just walking down the hallway. You know, he going to his office to make sure he got the right ingredients.
That's right.
Because we don't want the wrong stuff in the food. Y'all ain't hearing this. But it's very dangerous to talk to folk who about to feed you. They can put the wrong stuff in there, man. Y'all don't want my philosophy. You don't want Mike. Right now you want Pastor Mike. You want the anointing. Amen. Because whatever the anointing can do, Mike can't do, y'all. Mike ain't that good. Well, we're talking about this church called Thyatira. It is a very interesting church because this was a church that tolerated sin. It permitted it to operate. And of course, you don't look at nobody, but just think about yourself for a moment. Which church are you? What is the ingredient? You go through these 7 churches that you start to see about yourself. If you're smart, you won't look behind you. You just keep looking ahead so nobody knows.
Amen.
If he's talking to me, I ain't gonna let him know he's talking to me. Because I'm gonna keep looking forward. Amen. Even when you're in school, if you didn't know that, keep looking forward. You know, don't look around because they're gonna realize you don't know none of this classroom stuff. Amen. And then I was smart. I sat next to the smart students. Hoping that some of their smartness would rub off on me. Amen. You sit next to dummies, you get the dummy spirit. Y'all ain't want to hear me, but it's the truth. Sit next to somebody that knows a lesson better than the teacher, you might learn something. Amen?
Amen.
All right, well, let's get to work. Let's go to work. We know this church was living in a hostile time. Church, on the average, always lives in a hostile world. There is no need for the church unless she's in a hostile environment. Church can't be birthed in the nicest places all the time because she has a problem when she's birthed where everything is pleasant. Her true fruit come out under pressure. Sometimes your best prayer ain't done when everything is good. Your best prayer is when things are a little crazy. Because then your heart is honest before God. And you tell him the truth and you don't come up with that funny bunny stuff that's religion. Religion always forms rules that they can't keep. But when it's coming from your soul and your heart, you tell God the truth. Just because you can quote 1,000 verses don't mean that's always coming from your heart. Sometimes you got to say, Lord, in the middle of your jump, I need a little help right here. If you could just help me right now, I'll be all right. Ain't no sense in me trying to fog it up with all that religious stuff I know. Just let me ask you for some help. Kids about to drive me nervous and drive me out of my mind. Lord, I need some help. I was sharing with Pastor Jerry and Mr. Alex that I received a messenger message from one of my cousins. My first cousin is pretty sick, and it kind of struck me a little hard. With all my wisdom and all my knowledge, I resorted to one thing: I need your help. I ain't that deep and wonderful, Lord, that sometimes words evade me. You say, don't you pray in the Spirit? Well, I headed there too, but my emotions got the best of me. As I examine this church, I see certain things that magnify holiness. Say holiness. Holiness. Sometimes in the worst scenarios of my life, God is truer in his holiness. It is hard to see holiness when you think you're perfect. But it's easy to see how great God is when I'm weak. Are you hearing me? Come on. As I post this church, as I look intensely at this church, it indeed was a very powerful church. But it had some issues, and some major issues. And I want to pick up with some of the reading of this church in chapter 2, verse 18. And the angel, the messenger of the assembly of the church in Thyatira, write these words of the Son of God, underline Son of God, whose eyes that flash like fire or flames of fire, whose feet glow like bright, burnished, and white-hot bronze. I know your record and what you're doing, your love, your faith, your service, and your patience, your endurance, and that your recent works are more numerous and greater than the first ones. That's a good report card. Let me stop at 19 just a second. He says, I see in your record you have the love that Ephesus didn't have. Because remember, Ephesus was the church that was loveless. But Ephesus was a church that was strong in teaching. It was strong in doctrine. But it had a flaw, or there was something in the ointment called a fly. Absence of love. It's one thing you can tell people to do things right, but if you don't lace it with love. Amen. You know, I love medicine that has a little taste to it. Because it's hard to take down medicine that's nasty. Every time I look at it, I regret it. I don't know about you. I got to psych myself. I'm holding my nose or something. Because it's terrible. And sometimes people don't mean any harm, but when you're not really born again, your own nature rules you. And you don't know how to talk with love. Even though you've been hit, if you can bounce up and say, I still love you, though. Somehow the Christ comes out and he begins to be edified, because if you can love when they don't love you, they don't even speak to you, and you after them, you say, hey, hi! And you do it every week too. And they're running out the church, hi! What are you doing? You're trying to say, even though you don't want to speak to me, I must respond to you with love. me, but that's okay. I still love you.
That's right. That's right.
Now watch this. Add a little additional to that and go buy a car. When you go buy a car, I just wanted to tell you I love you because I can't catch you.
See. Huh.
I think Jesus went that far for us.
Yes, he did.
He went the extra mile to grab us when we were running away from him. He didn't want to be entangled with him because he loved us to try to help us understand he was going to die for us. So he chased us. Listen, you didn't seek him. He sought you.
Right.
He says, I know your record. You love and you're faithful. The word faith there. You're faithful. And your service, and you're patient with endurance. You know, a lot of folk don't know how to endure. This church had people that could endure. They could hang in there. Love is patient. It can hang in the toughest situation. Let me tell you how strong love is. Love can hang on till you change.
Yeah.
As ridiculous as that sounds, love can hang in there when you're so disrespectful. Love can hang in there. Matthew 5 says, what is love if everybody loves you back? Love is only proven when you can love when they don't like you. That's when you prove love. Why are you baking cake for all them people? Because all the 5 folk that hate me. But you making them a good cake like that? Yeah, because I want it to be sweet.
That's right. That's right.
I'm working on me. You know, I'm not working on them. I'm working on me. I got stuff that ain't right yet. And if I get it right by loving people that don't love me, maybe I can look like Jesus. All right, I'm being good because I can go in and work this one, you know. He said, watch this. And that recent works are more numerous and greater than the first one. He said, you know what y'all done? You guys have increased in your ability to love folk. Now, we applaud it today because we started a new ministry to help the homeless. Oh, I love this church. And I got to say this, brothers, the women showed up in numbers. They wasn't playing. See, if the brothers sit too long, the sisters ain't going to keep waiting. Y'all better hear me. If you can't fit no restaurants, you'll find one. We're going somewhere. But you'll know oneself. we going out today, baby.
That's right.
I didn't ask you a month where you want to go and you still can't find nothing. I got someplace we're going. Where are we going? Marina. Baby, ain't that costly? That's all right. You couldn't pick no place else. We're going to make this a good day tonight. It'll cost you a little something. Brother rubbing his wallet.